Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 2, text number 1. Sanjaya Vacha Tam Tatha Kripayavishtham Ashru Purnakulekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. The word Madhusudana is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. A man fallen in the ocean of nations cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Shudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, and for this purpose, the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority, Lord Sri Krishna. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So it's very, very interesting that now we have started this chapter number 2, where actually Krishna starts speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So we can see there is a lot of emphasis given on compassion and how compassion has to be used in the right way for the right purpose, which means compassion for the spirit soul and not just this gross material body. We see that Arjuna is full of compassion, but his compassion is misplaced because he's thinking of his relatives as the material bodies. So that's why his mind is depressed, he is crying, and he is only thinking about the body of his relatives. And material compassion leads to lamentation and tears. All these, Prabhupada says, are signs of ignorance, which means one doesn't have the right knowledge. One doesn't know the spiritual science of the Bhagavad Gita. And because they are not aware of who they really are, there is perplexity. So today's topic is, how can we become free from perplexities of life? The answer is given in today's chapter. I'll cover chapter 1 through 13. Chapter 2, verses 1 through 13 today. And I read the very first verse. But later on, Srila Prabhupada will explain in his purports what exactly is Krishna trying to explain to Arjuna? Unfortunately, most people do not know who they really are. They only identify with this material body. They go by the name that is given to them by their parents. Like, for instance, my name is Gita. So Gita is for this material body, but I'm different from this material body. I'm a spirit soul. So most people do not have this knowledge about the difference between body and soul, and that is why they get perplexed. And because of this compassion which is misplaced, we can see Arjuna is lamenting, he's morose, he's sad, he is crying, and he's only thinking about his relatives, and he doesn't know how to become free from this perplexity. This is very, very heavy on his heart. He's not able to understand. So in this verse, Prabhupada explains that there is this very important word used in this verse. And Sanjay is talking about that it is Madhu Sudana. Madhu was a demon which was killed by Krishna. So that's why Krishna got a name Madhu Sudana. So Arjuna is indirectly telling Krishna that just like you killed the demon Madhu, you please kill the demon which is in my heart, the demon of misunderstanding. What is that misunderstanding? He is thinking he is the body. So if one is not able to understand the difference between body and soul, they will not be able to get over the perplexities of life. So this chapter, number 2, chapter 2, which is entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. In other words, we'll get the summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita in this chapter. This chapter will show us how we can become self-realized, not just theoretically, but also realize it in our lives that I am not this body. So understanding the real us is the whole purpose of this chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So in verse number 2, Krishna starts speaking the Bhagavad Gita. He's asking Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? How come you are, so confused and you're lamenting? Because Arjuna was a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, but he was put into that situation where he would ask these questions so that we could get answers, which actually are our own questions. So here we get the answer to our questions. In the second verse of this chapter, it starts with Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, which means, Uvacha means speaks. He is the one who is speaking. Who? Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavan means God or the Supreme Lord, which means there's no one above him and no one equal to him. That is God. And we get many references from scriptures which tell us who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first created being is Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma's first verse of his first prayer is Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karan. So here we see that Lord Brahma is saying that Krishna is the cause of all causes, and he has a form, eternal form, which is full of knowledge, eternal, and bliss. So he's a personality. In fact, we see in the Vedic scriptures, there are qualifications of God given. Who can be considered to be the Supreme Lord? Why? So that supposing tomorrow I tell you, I am God. So then you need to find out, am I listed in the scriptures as God? Secondly, do I have those qualifications? So the qualifications of God are given. Aishwarasya samagrasya virasya yashashriya. Parashar Muni says that anyone who has these 6 qualities in full, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there is another, Ete Chamsa Kalapumsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna, you yourself are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we've seen from different scriptures that it indicates Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, very last verse, Krishna himself says, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He says, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwara, means Maha Ishvara. He's the Supreme Lord of all planets, all demigods, of everyone. So that is why Bhagavad Gita, it states, Shri Bhagavana Uvacha, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is speaking. Now, the Supreme Lord, as per the Srimad Bhagavatam, you see the books at the back, which is actually the summary of the Vedas, there it is mentioned that Krishna enters into the heart of every living entity as the super soul. And super soul, being in the heart, knows it all, knows everything. So here we see Arjuna in front of Krishna. He is lamenting, and Krishna is surprised, How come you do not understand what your prescribed duty is? How come that your compassion is misplaced? Why are you showing compassion for the material body and not the spirit soul? So in verse 3, Krishna says, please give up this petty weakness of heart and arise. He's encouraging Arjuna. Now, of course, he'll give more knowledge to him, but now he's telling him, you are a warrior, you are a soldier, you are a kshatriya, and your prescribed duty is to fight. So please give up this petty weakness of heart and arise. In other words, Krishna is directly guiding Arjuna on the battlefield towards self-realization. Arjuna did not want to fight. He did not want to do his prescribed duty. Why? Because of weakness of heart. How many of us experience this weakness of heart? All of us experience sometime or the other. And this weakness of heart actually means compassion is misplaced. We are thinking about the material body. And Krishna calls it miserly weakness. Who is a miser? Miser is one who has everything but doesn't want to use it, or doesn't want to share it, or doesn't want to give it. That is a miser. So now, how do we understand this miser word in this verse? Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely. He says, if one has got this rare human form of life, and if one does not use it for self-realization, that person is considered a miser. Now, after hearing this, Arjuna is asking Krishna, how can I kill my relatives? They are worthy of my worship, like my grandfather, my teacher. They are on the opposite side, and they have come to fight me, but I don't want to fight. He says, I would rather live by begging, or, he started giving different reasons why he should not fight. When we are perplexed in our lives, excuse me, we start finding reasons, or if someone is trying to attack us, excuse me, we try to find reasons to defend ourselves. So here, now Arjuna, he doesn't want to fight because of miserly weakness, because of compassion misplaced. He is giving reasons to Krishna, the Supreme Lord, why he should not do his duty. First of all, he says, I am confused about my duty. How many of us are confused about what we should do in life, what we should not do, what is my prescribed duty? Most of us fall in that category. So he says, I am confused, I have lost all composure. And, after giving reasons, he tells Krishna, I am accepting you as my spiritual master. I want to become your disciple. Please instruct me. I am your disciple. I am a soul surrendered unto you. please instruct me, which means now Arjuna, he has realized he cannot solve the problem of his life. He cannot come out of this perplexity. And he sees here is Krishna right in front of me. And the best thing is that I take guidance from him. So he was open to guidance. This is very important point. You know, mostly people think I know it all. I don't need any knowledge. I don't need any guidance. I am good at everything that I do. That is illusion. So Arjuna realized very quickly that he needs guidance. He, just like, you know, we need a teacher in all spheres of life, whether I want to learn dancing, singing, music, software, hardware, computers, I want to learn about the car or karate or judo, whatever it is, we need a teacher. So why not accept a teacher when it comes to spiritual education? So here, Arjuna, he wants to learn from someone who already knows. Just like if I want to learn how to play a musical instrument, I will look for a teacher, not just a teacher, but a bona fide teacher. Who? Someone who is certified, someone who has experience, right? Right? And someone who's practicing what that person is preaching. So we need to also in spirituality find a bona fide teacher, a certified teacher who can guide us on the spiritual path. So here Arjuna, he realized and he wants to become free of perplexities in his life. He is in the battlefield against his loved ones. He doesn't want to fight. That is the confusion in his life, and he wants a solution. You know, let me ask a question. Who is perplexed? You see, we're talking about perplexity, but who is it that is perplexed? Those who do not understand the problems of this material life. They are the ones who are confused. You see, the scriptures tell us there are 7 miseries in life. You see, there is birth, disease, old age, death. These are the 4 miseries. Now, there are another 3 miseries. Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, Adidevika. Does that mean? That means miseries caused by other living entities. Like, for instance, when I went to India, another living entity made my life miserable. That was a mosquito, just a mosquito bite. And boom, I had this terrible fever, called the dengue fever. Is another living entity caused me misery. So we have different living entities that cause us misery. Sometimes it's the mother-in-law, sometimes it's the father-in-law, sometimes it's the relatives or friends, or it could be the boss in the office, right? Then misery is caused by material nature, like it's too cold, it's too hot, there is flooding, there is famine, there is earthquake, so many different, right? And also, so these are, the third one is Adidevika. Miseries caused by, what does that mean? Can anyone tell me what does that mean, Adidevika? Probably Leelavasini. Maybe she's not on audio today. Are you there, Leelavasini? Or maybe Shamrup? We have heard this many times, right?
Friends and relatives, Mataji?
Sorry?
Friends and relatives?
No. Adidevika is like, miseries caused by unseen forces, like, demigods, So those, that is called Adidevika.
Okay, unseen forces. Thank you, Mataji.
Yes. It could be, excuse me, too much coughing. So these are the 7 miseries of life. And a miser is one who wastes the human form of life without understanding that there are so many miseries, so many perplexities, how to become free. So this chapter is teaching us how to become free from all those miseries, all the perplexities. You see, when it is time to leave the body, it is very painful according to the scriptures. No one can help us at that time. Only the Supreme Lord can help us. And based on our spiritual activities throughout our lives, Krishna comes to help us at the time of death. Say, just like Arjuna, he is so attached to his family, which is not bad, but he is so attached to his family that he doesn't want to perform his duty. He's not understanding that his relatives are not the material body, they are the spirit soul. So Arjuna is telling Krishna, I cannot drive away, this grief. You see, I am not able to solve the problems of my life, and I need your help, Krishna. Please help. You see, in the material world, academic knowledge, high position, a lot of wealth, nothing can help us. They cannot help us solve the problems of life. But a spiritual master, especially a bona fide certified spiritual master, can guide us and show us the way. That is how we can actually understand the purpose of human form of life and also understand the science of self-realization, as it is called. You see, that can give us relief. Just the knowledge can give us relief from miseries of life. So now we see Arjuna has taken shelter of Krishna. He is no longer thinking of, he's not thinking of Krishna as a friend. Now he's considering Krishna to be the Supreme Lord, his spiritual master, who is now going to help him, guide him in understanding what his prescribed duty is and how to get rid of miseries. Now, Arjuna has taken shelter, but he is, before taking shelter, he told Krishna that I am so perplexed, I don't want to fight. And he felt silent, He just kept his bow arrow down. He sat down, with hand on his head. He is lamenting and he doesn't want to fight. He says, Govinda, I shall not fight. Govinda is another name of Krishna. Govinda, I shall not fight. Now, when Sanjaya told Dhritarashtra, this is what Arjuna said, imagine. That blind Dhritarashtra was so happy. Oh, Arjuna is not going to fight anymore, which means my children, 100 sons, are safe. Arjuna has given up. He's going to leave the battlefield and go away. There will be no war. And, Arjuna will go beg and live, and he will not fight with my sons, etc., etc. But Sanjaya informed Dhritarashtra, don't be happy so quickly. No. Krishna is there. Arjuna has accepted him as the spiritual master. He will be enlightened by Krishna very soon. So don't worry at all. The war will take place. So when Krishna saw Arjuna lamenting and not wanting to fight, Krishna smiled. He smiled and he started speaking. He smiled because his friend Arjuna chose to become his disciple. So now that, situation of friendship is not there anymore, now there is going to be a talk between a guru and a disciple, which means there's going to be gravity in their talk. It's not going to be, hey, what's up? How are you? How's things? No, not that kind of conversation anymore. That's, what we do with our friends, right? But here, guru and disciple, now it's going to be very grave, which means Krishna is now going to speak the Bhagavad Gita for benefit of Arjuna and for benefit of all of us. That is the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Now, in verse number 11, Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, you are mourning for something that is not worthy of grief. Why are you mourning? He says, the wise people, they lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Why? Because they understand that when someone takes on the material body, it has to come to an end. For the material body, there's a beginning and there is an end. So, which means death is sure. That's why they say, as sure as death. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, those who are born are sure to die, and after death, one is sure to be born again. So he says, the wise, they do not lament. Why? Because they understand that death is just a change of dress, just like I'm wearing an outfit today. And when this outfit gets old and torn, I will throw this away and put on a new garment. That is what the soul does. When the material body becomes old and useless, the soul leaves the body and takes on another body. Is just a change of dress. Soul is eternal. The soul never dies, you see. So he says the wise, they understand the difference between body and soul. Body is born and it's destined to be vanquished. If someone knows this, then that person does not lament for that material body. Now in verse 12, he gives a beautiful description of the spirit soul. He says, never was there a time when I did not exist, when all of you did not exist, and there will never be a time that any of us will cease to be. Which means he's saying, we, the spirit soul, are eternal. Soul never dies. It only changes body, like we change apartments or we change houses or we change countries, right? It is just a change. See, when the lease expires, we leave the apartment and take on another apartment. Similarly, when the lease of this material body expires, we just go into another body. But Krishna says the individuality remains, which means the spirit soul is an individual entity. It does not merge into the body of the Lord, or it does not get lost anywhere. The spirit soul is eternal and the individuality remains. Now, the very last verse for today, which is number 13. Beautiful verse. Dehi no asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. Krishna says, you see, as the embodied soul, he's using a very important word, embodied, which means the soul is inside the body, it is in the cage of the material body, it is embodied. As the embodied soul continuously passes from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly, the soul passes on to another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered. How very important. In other words, that soul is eternal. Scientifically, it is proved that every 7 years, all the cells in our body are replaced, which means we get new cells, we get new body. Even though we are still in the same body, but we can see, I don't look like the way I looked when I was 4 years old or 5 years old or 16 years old. No, my body has grown. Even inside this material body, so many changes have taken place every 7 years. Body changed at 7, when I was 14, when I was 21, when I was 28. So this is how, so Krishna says, why lament? This body is changing right in front of our eyes, right? But he says, a person should become sober. Now, sober doesn't mean you go like this. No, sober means you take on the knowledge and understand, become wise, understand that this material body is supposed to die at some point of life. But the spirit soul, which is within this material body, is eternal. So just like we feed this material body, we need to feed the spirit soul also. You see, if we don't do that, then we will get into the cycle of transmigration. You see, there are, according to the scriptures, there are 8.4 million species of life. You see, different 8.4 million. And out of that, only 400,000 different types of human beings are there. Only 400,000. I'm not talking about population, but I'm talking about different kinds. So if we decide that we don't want to get in the cycle of transmigration, take one body after another, after another, after another, and go through 7 miseries of life, then we need to take on this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita very seriously. We need to decide, do I want to place an order for next body? Just like we place order, right? We like something. We go to Amazon or eBay or wherever, and we place an order. Now, when we place an order, based on the order we placed, that is what is delivered to us. Of course, most of the times, very rarely the order is, incorrect, but mostly is the correct order. So whatever we are doing in this life, whatever actions we are performing, all that is actually creating an order. We are preparing an order for our next life. But the wise people take on this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and they do not place another order. They want to break this cycle of birth and death, and they want to go back to the spiritual world, because our real identity is spirit soul, which is eternal, that is supposed to live in spiritual body in the spiritual planet. Now, right now, we are encaged in this material body. There was a little boy who insisted to his father that he wanted a bird. So his father took him to a store, where they sell birds. So he chose a beautiful bird. Now, the storekeeper, he said, well, you can't just take the bird. You have to, buy a cage. So he bought a very beautiful cage, and it was like gold plated, like beautiful cage. And the bird was in that cage. He was very happy, and he took the bird home. Now he tried to, play with the bird, like, let it hear some music or play some instrument and this and that. But the bird would not move. The bird was just sitting in one corner. So this boy and the father, they went back to the store, and they said, what's happened to the bird? The bird looks to be alive, but it's not moving, it's not, having no reactions, nothing. So the storekeeper said, oh, you know what? You probably should put a ladder in the cage so that the bird can go up and down and be entertained. So he bought that and he put the ladder. Again, no change. Went back. So the storekeeper said, well, I think you should put some toys in there. That'll be interesting for the bird, and the bird will start moving and flying inside the cage, etc. So he bought all that and he put, and still no change. So he went to the storekeeper. He said, there is something wrong with the bird. You gave me a bird which is useless, is not moving at all. So the storekeeper said, well, let me ask you a question. Did you feed the bird? He said, no, you didn't tell me to feed the bird. Well, if you don't feed the bird, how is the bird going to get energy, and how is the bird going to fly? You see? So what is the point of having a cage, a polished cage? This material body is like a cage. We are polishing this cage, right? We are making sure we look nice. We wear nice clothes and nice jewelry and this and everything. But we are forgetting to feed this material body, right? So when we feed the material body, we get energy, and then we are able to move around. Similarly, we need to feed the soul. You see, the soul is the most important part in this body. Once the soul leaves the body's value is only $5.60, according to Harry Monson, the scientist, right? He did research and he said, the body, when it is dead, has no value, only $5.60. But when the soul is in the body, you cannot put a value on that body. It is so very valuable. And this value comes from the spirit soul. So we need to feed the soul. And the food for the soul is the chanting of the mantra, the Maha Mantra. That is, which is recommended in the scriptures. And for this age, in Kali Yuga, the Maha Mantra for this age is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is what is needed for this body and the soul. You see, right now we are in the human form. Why? Because there's a purpose behind it. Human form is not for eat, sleep, and be happy. No, human form is to understand what is my goal. My goal is to break the cycle of misery, get a spiritual body, and go back to the spiritual world. So, Bhagavad Gita is giving us the foundation of our spiritual lives. It is explaining to us. So, we see the very first instruction of Krishna to Arjuna is you are not this body. Now, there are 22 verses explaining about the spirit soul, which we will cover in our next Sunday class. But the very first he said is, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. But of course, before that, he also said that, that the spirit soul is eternal. So once we understand this, then we can start building up on our spiritual lives. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is an owner's manual for this material body, how we should lead this human form of life, how we should apply the knowledge from Bhagavad Gita and be successful. Once we start doing that, then we will be able to become free from perplexities of our lives. So we will learn more about the eternal soul next time in our next Sunday class. And just like in every class, we feed the soul, right? What do? We chant. So let me see if there is anyone new today. No, everyone here is aware of the Maha Mantra and have all the links to different, YouTube, WhatsApp, everything. So let's do some mantra meditation. And I would humbly suggest that you also chant with me, just maybe 10 times. That's all. Not too difficult. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So you see, it's very, very simple. There are 108 beads in this mala. And if we chant this Maha Mantra 108 times, it takes less than 10 minutes. So please, my humble suggestion and request to you is that please do this mantra meditation on a daily basis. And that is the food for the soul. So I am going to end now. If anyone has any questions or comments, you are welcome to ask.
Hare Krishna.